of our users. So I'm going to make a couple of assumptions here, and that is that as this one was advertised for new and inexperienced users, I'm going to assume that all of you have had a look at MAPPEN, that you've all got your logins, and I'm going to say if at any point you want to follow along on your own screen what I'm taking you through, then please feel free to do so. I'm Amanda McCallum. I'm one of the directors of MAPPEN and one of the team of authors, and I'm thoroughly excited as the head of customer success to be supporting you in this way today. The intention for today's webinar is to make sure that all of you have a basic understanding of all of the features of MAPPEN. When a school starts with MAPPEN, there is nearly always a whole school PD involved. However, there's a lot to take in at a short period of time, and often some of the features get missed. The other thing is that for some of you, you will have come to a school that is using MAPPEN and not been a part of that training, or alternatively, you might have been a specialist in a MAPPEN school and are now moving into the generalist classroom. So for today, I will take you through each of the features of MAPPEN. I anticipate that that process will run for around about 20 minutes. And then at that point, I'll open the floor to chat. It will be online chat, not audio. It's a little bit harder to manage. That's the process that we're going for today, and we'll see how everything works. But I will give you several minutes to compose any questions that you have after that initial 20 minutes, and then I'll work through and answer as many of those questions as I possibly can. So, to get started, I'm about to share my MAPPEN screen with you, and we'll start talking through all of the features of MAPPEN. And here we are. So what you're looking at the moment is the home page, or your all units page of MAPPEN. Some of what I say to you, for some of you, will be quite basic. For others, I really do need to take you through this very start of it. So when you're first looking at MAPPEN in this home page, basically, if I scroll down the page, what you'll see is the entire suite of units. I'm going to make an assumption that you are all teaching in a particular level. So for the purposes of today, I'll go to the centre, I'll have a look at levels 3 and 4. If you are a year 3 or 4 teacher, for example, you would click on levels 3 and 4. And what you're now seeing is the 8 units that you would be delivering for the next 2 years. It's important for you to understand that over the duration of the 2 years, every content description for both years 3 and 4 are covered during that time if you go through the full suite of the 8 units for that time. Alrighty, that's the start of it. If as a whole school, and for most of our MAPPEN schools, there is a whole school approach to delivering the same concept at the same time. So for a lot of you, this term, your school will be investigating either the concept of community, and by clicking on the concept word, I get those 4 units highlighted. So if you are, for example, a 3-4 teacher, and you would like to have a basic idea of what's happening in the rest of the school, a very brief read of this little overview of the unit will tell you what's happening right throughout the school. I'll unclick community and we're back to the entire page. That's how we're going to navigate our way around the units. On this page, I briefly want to make sure that each and every one of you are aware of a couple of really key places. The first one I want to show you is over here where there are the 3 white bars. This is basically your main menu. And so from here, if you wanted to look at our information site, click there. If you want to go back to all units because you are currently working in a particular unit, that is where you would go. If you wanted to look at the curriculum maps, that is where you go. I will take you through each of those in some more detail, but I wanted you to be aware, if I'm talking about the main menu, the 3 white bars is what I'm talking about. Over on the right-hand side where you see your name, that is what I'll refer to as your portal. And when we click in your portal, what you're going to see are these various tabs. A welcome tour for when you forget everything that's been said today, a place for you to build some anecdotal records on your students, a place for you to record, which will automatically record your professional learning as you watch the professional learning videos, a centre where you can access any professional learning video, a place where we can look at the notes that you make, and probably at this point, one of the most important, this is new to MAPPEN, and it is the MAPPEN Training Centre. I'm just going to briefly open that, because what I'm talking you through today are the features of MAPPEN. Each of the things that I talk you through are replicated in this MAPPEN training session. So if, for example, I talk you through how the scope and sequence works, and you can't quite remember anything I was saying, you will find an explanation of that in the MAPPEN Training Centre. So this is a really important place for you to remember, and that was in your portal. At any time that you've navigated your way away from all of the units, or the one that you're working in, basically this little icon here is your homepage. Get me back to where I started. So a quick click on that, and I'm now back looking at all of the units. Okay, moving on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say I am a Year 3-4 teacher. I am investigating the concept of community. You can see those have now navigated you to your unit, which is First Contacts. By clicking in First Contacts, I open the unit. At first glimpse, we're looking at the introduction to the unit, and I'm going to come back to that. But then as I scroll down, what you are looking at is your unit week by week, task by task, for 8 weeks in what is generally a 10-week term, and that allows 4 blowouts. If you are a junior school teacher, foundation to year 2, we have tried to limit the number of tasks in any week to between 2 and 3. And if you are in years 3 and 4, where there is more content to be covered, 3 to 6, my apologies. If you are in years 3 to 6, we've tried to limit those tasks to 3 or 4 per week as a maximum. So as a rule of thumb, in foundation to year 2, you're looking at approximately 2 to 3 hours a week for your MAPPEN units. In years 3 to 6, approximately 3 to 4 hours per week. And what you are getting is your confident guarantee that over the duration of the 2 years, by committing those few hours to this, you are covering everything from the history, geography, science, economics, civics and citizenship, the general capabilities, and the design and technology, and the personal health side of the health and PE curriculum. Depending on which jurisdiction you're in and listening to me at the moment, you know your own terminologies for those various areas. Okay, onwards and upwards. When we look at the introduction to the unit, the best advice I can give is that when you open a unit for the first time, whether you are with a team or on your own, is that you spend about 10 minutes in this introduction. Read the big picture thinking on the left-hand side. Read the purpose for learning, the investigation into, the essential questions that your students will be answering as a result of the learning, and the future action, how their life might change as a result of bothering to do this learning. That is a very contemporary idea, suggesting that if what we are teaching our students doesn't change their lives, then perhaps we shouldn't be teaching it. And at MAPPEN, we've made sure that each unit has a future action task at the end that takes the students into the changes of their life. So have a good read of that. On the right-hand side, this introductory video is your quickest segue into understanding the unit without having to go through every task. These have just recently all been redone, and basically it will take you through week by week, task by task, a very brief synopsis of what's happening in those tasks, and the videos last somewhere between 6 to 8 minutes, so that by committing that half a dozen minutes, at the end of that video, you will have a really good sense of where the unit's going and how it's getting there. Each of the tabs underneath, whether you are in Victoria, New South Wales or an Australian curriculum school or in Western Australia, this red tab will show you the relevant curriculum for your jurisdiction that is addressed throughout the unit. The yellow tab introduces the glossary that is unique to the unit, and we build one glossary task in every unit, but you can use this for spelling activities, for other literacy-based activities if you choose. The teacher preparation tab, this blue one, that's helping you as the practitioner, guys. So if you read through that, anytime it says attached, you will actually see the attachment in the task itself. But by having a quick read through that at the start of preparing for a new unit, you can see everything that you will be required to get ready. I want you to be rest assured that every document we have created for you, every website we have found for you. So these are fully resourced. But you know that when you are preparing for a unit, sometimes there are a couple of big ticket items. And this here, show only tasks with significant preparation required. If you tick on that, it will take you to anything that is going to require you doing some preparation earlier than, say, the night or the day before. So that means you can really make sure that you are prepared for the unit as is necessary. Okay, I'm going to close that. The inquiry here, this tab in years foundation to year 2 is inquiry play suggestions. For years 3 to 6, it is suggestions linked to tasks that have been written and resourced in MAPPEN that your students may choose to do in week 6, which is an independent inquiry week. I will explain that a little further on, but this is the link to where we have made some suggestions for you where your students are perhaps a bit stuck on an idea for an independent inquiry. I'll close that one out. Opening the guided reflections. The guided reflections are intended to develop the metacognitive capacities of your students. It's to get them thinking about their thinking. So every task has a short, targeted reflection at the end of the task. In this introduction to the unit, we suck them all up into this one document because if you have a quick read through that, you get a good sense of what they're being asked to reflect about. And it's often not what they've learned, but who they've learnt it with, how they might use it in other areas of their lives. I'll close that out. And the last item, the assessment item, this is where if there are any rubrics associated with the units, you will be able to see the rubrics here. And where we have compiled all of the graphic organisers that the students will work with, all of the rubrics that the students will work with, into what is referred to here as a workbook, which is basically a compilation of all of the work that they do throughout the term, then you will find them attached in this assessment tab. And so they're well worth you going through and having a look at. Okay, I'll close that out. I said at the beginning, if you can spend 10 minutes in that introduction, this area here, then you're in a very good place to be able to manage the nitty-gritty of the tasks. The last thing I will just show you there is these. This is simply the overview, that's a web-based overview, there is a PDF version and there is a Word version. This is for your documentation. If I open the overview, what this does is it takes out of the unit the key elements, and that is the big picture thinking, each of the task titles, the learning intention, what preparation is required, and which of the content descriptions are addressed to some extent in each of the tasks, what has informed each of the tasks. In here, excuse me, in here, under the Word version, you can add your own comments, etc., to provide your documentation. So it's a key point for you to notice or to be aware that that document, the Word version, is the only place in MAPPEN where you can print an overview of the unit. Alrighty, I'm going to move on. And we're now going to be looking at a particular unit. I'm just going to open a task for you, and I'm going to start with one that's quite straightforward. It's a glossary task. So when I open a task simply by clicking on the title, what you see there is a basic intention of what the students are doing in the task. On the left-hand side is as if you had the consultant on your shoulder, and it's what you're doing and why you're doing it. So the bold is the why. I am preparing for the task, I am facilitating the activity, I'm explaining it to the students, I'm facilitating discussion, etc. So the right-hand side is what the students will be doing. So left-hand side, what you will be doing, right-hand side, what the students will be doing. Very important for me to say quite clearly here, they are not intended as a script. This is to provide a very strong basis of how to facilitate this task. You can personalise it, you can change it, you can improve it, and I will show you where you would record those improvements. But if what you did was opened the tasks, read them, delivered them the way they presented, you are providing your students with quality curriculum. As I always say, there are more talented teachers out there than our authors, and some of you will be able to improve them. Good on you, go for it. I'll show you how. At the bottom of each task, if there is the need for any attachments, that's where you'll find them. In this case, it's the glossary cards, and if I come back up to an earlier task, I'll open the concept of community task. What you will see there is we have the students are being grouped using collective nouns because they are looking at communities. And so we have provided you with the collective nouns grouping cards, which I'm opening. So any attachment, anything you need to deliver the units, we have created and attached for you, and a lot of them take a lot of time. So that's a lot of your life back, guys. Okay, I'll close that one. And underneath that, what you will see is the professional learning. This is quite unique to MAPPEN, because basically what we've done is where a new idea or a strategy or a pedagogy is introduced in a task, that is where you will see the PD video. So as I just mentioned, your students in this task, it is suggested that you randomly group them. So we then provide a short 3 to 5 minute video on why you might randomly group them. So if I click on that, what you see, this one here goes for 2 minutes and 40 seconds. That's all. It explains the pedagogy behind random grouping. If you are watching it with a whole team, you can select other staff and it will go into everyone's PD record. I'm going to show you how that works shortly. What you need to understand here is that by watching one of the professional development videos, which may only go for 2 or 3 minutes, that you are accredited with 1 hour of professional learning. In New South Wales, that is towards your 10 hours of teacher identified professional learning. In Victoria, it can be for your whole 20 hours. New South Wales, we're working on it, I promise. But the reason you get accredited with an hour's professional learning is because you have read and analysed a task you didn't write yourself. You have watched the professional learning video about a new strategy that you may not have used before, and you then practice it immediately in the context of your own students in your own classroom. That becomes, and you reflect on it, that becomes a very powerful professional learning experience for you. How that gets recorded is if I scroll back up to my portal, if you remember the terminology, and I go into my portal, into my professional learning log, the video that I have watched, the task that I watched it in has been recorded. I can add my reflection by typing in here. I can add the relevant standards, understanding how students learn, and you can see that that has accredited me with 60 minutes professional learning. I'm saving that. When I get to put my documentation in for my reaccreditation, I can simply print my document, download it, and that can be attached to the the relevant body for my professional learning accreditation. So it's a nice aside that you get from MAPPEN. Alrighty, I'm just going to arrow back. And I'm going to head back to where I wanted to, which was the start of all of the units. Alrighty, I'm going to stop speaking. I've got more to show you, but I'm going to stop speaking for approximately 3 minutes. If you can just bear with me, I will stop sharing the screen. And what I'm going to do is I've turned on the chat. So hopefully on the right-hand side of your screen, I'll put my video back on, you can see my mug again. On the right-hand side of your screen, you should see your capacity to chat. So it may be that you see it at the bottom of your screen there. I'm not too sure. If you scroll down to the bottom of your screen, you might see the chat icon there. For the next few minutes, I'm going to ask you to simply write down any questions that have been generated for you at the moment. I will come back to you in 3 minutes, have a look at all of the questions and answer those that I can at that time. So, going to love and leave you for a few minutes. Get into the chat icon and write down any questions that you have. See you soon. And I'm back. Okay, fantastic that I've got a couple of questions here, so you can get used to doing it. So firstly, thanks, Lynn. So Lynn has asked about where do I make changes in a task method if I want to? And Lynn, I'm going to take you there very shortly. That's the next part of this demonstration. Not quite so simple is from Zoe. Zoe is talking about cross-level classes. So be it a 2-3, a 4-5, a foundation 1. Without going into the complexities of it here, the first thing is to be said is it is a problem that you face all the time if you are the teacher of a cross-level class. So my thoughts are with you, I promise. In the very short answer is that what we recommend is that if you have a 4-5, for example, that you make a decision based on the majority of your students or the majority level, capability level of your students, and you choose to deliver the 3-4 units or the 5-6 units. So if, for example, you had a majority of grade 4 students, you would choose to deliver the 3-4 units. If you had a majority of grade 5 students, you would choose to deliver the 5-6 units. There is the possibility in 2 years that some students may have a repeat of a unit that they have done before. However, usually speaking, they will be with a different teacher who would bring a different flavour. They will have added 2 years maturity to their own approach to their learning, and the MAPPEN units are continually being updated for currency, for engagement, based on teacher feedback. So the responses that we have had from cross-level classes is when they make that decision, they might need to do some differentiation for their brighter or weaker students, but as a rule of thumb, that works for them. I hope that helps with yours, Zoe. If anyone wants to email me after this, I can provide you with a spreadsheet that sort of gives a picture of what each of the what cross classes would look like, cross-level classes would look like delivering the units. So I'm happy to email that to you. Okay. I've got one other question here from Aidan. Working in schools where you use interactive TVs to display lesson information with students, does the MAPPEN provide slides or displays which can help consistently communicate the lesson structure to students across a larger school grade or level? Interesting question, Aidan. The general use of MAPPEN in the classroom is predominantly, increasingly, teachers are using interactive whiteboards. If you are wanting to display what is actually happening in the task, if you have a class that is working quite that autonomously and that openly, then I would simply be displaying your MAPPEN task screen to the students. All of the attachments, 90% of our attachments are done in Word, because we want you to be able to modify them, personalise them, differentiate using them. So they're not PDFs, they're not watermarked. We want you to have that sort of access. What a lot of our schools do is where they have student drives, for example, and they have students with one-to-ones, they upload all of the attachments into the student drive, and they can then direct their students to attachments to work in, and they can work in them online, which saves on printing, saves on all heaps of things. So I'm hoping that that addresses your concern. If not, Aidan, you can come back with another question in the next question break. Okay, I'm going to move on now. I'm going to share my screen again, if you can bear with me. And I will stop my video. You don't need to see my mug there. Alrighty. Okay, so we're now back in a unit again. I'll move to a junior level unit now because we've been playing in a senior one. So we'll go to Places and Spaces, which is the Year 1 and 2 community unit. I'm going to move past the introduction as we've already gone through there. Tani, you've still got your camera on, by the way. I can see your lovely face there. Which is fine, your face is lovely. Okay, and I'm going to go down to a task. So let's assume in this immersion task that you wanted to make some modifications. So this task suggests that you go to Google Maps. You might have an alternative to that. So if I go to Notes, which is underneath the title there, I click in Notes, this is your place. And what you can see there, interestingly, on my screen, is that there are a couple of people who have already shared ideas that they have with the whole MAPPEN community, and I'm delighted. I just chose that task at random. I'm delighted to see that, and that's the way that this sharing can work. So the default is you're in the comment stage. So let's say, for example, you wanted to have the students access, I'm making this up, guys, the MAPPEN site. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but you'll get the idea. Then I go add website, and I will type in getmappen.com, which is the website that I'm going to have them do, and I click add. What you'll see now is that you have a direct link within the task to the website, or to a movie, or to a book, or to, you might have modified one of our tasks and re-uploaded it, re-uploaded a document. You might have added your own documents. They can all sit in here with direct links to them. As soon as I wrote a note, these three bars presented themselves. You have the choice to make a modification to MAPPEN and choose to keep it to yourself, post it privately, to share it with the school, strongly recommended as the default position for you. Because where you have found a great website to support a task or modified a document, if you share it with the school, the other teachers who are teaching that same task in your school get the benefit of your thinking. So I would say share with school, and then it will appear in my screen and I can use it there. Because I added the task, the note, I can also delete it, which I'm about to do now. Okay. You could have chosen, if you found a great resource to support a task, you could choose, as the lovely Katie here has, to share it with the entire MAPPEN community. Very supportive of small schools who don't have a whole team to discuss things with. So that's the most basic modification you can make, is make a note, add a website, movie, book, upload files, etc. Then if you look at the differentiation, what we have done here is, when you're looking at differentiating for your very gifted students or for your weaker students, this place here is based on a model for gifted education, and you can see the default there is higher, and it suggests that you can differentiate based on content, process or product. In here we have generic ideas. We don't differentiate the tasks for you because you are the only person who knows the needs of your students. But we do offer some ideas around differentiation as a resource for you. And if I open the first one there, it says provide advanced resources that offer sophisticated vocabulary and ideas. When I go into that, it breaks that down a little bit more, and a lot of them have this breakdown. Provide access to dictionaries and thesaurus for students to find meanings, etc. I would probably say adding this for the following students. And then I can add my student names. Now guys, this adding of your student names sits under your portal where it says students, and I'll take you there shortly. But if you add all of your student names to your MAPPEN account, you can start building a record of differentiation. Very important if you have students on a disability, because the government is requiring you to report on how you're differentiating it. You can build meaningful anecdotal records about what the students are doing and link it, because if I link that to Colin Carter, I can link it to another student, I can link it to Amanda Tan, and when I go into my student records, I can see those notes. So you will see how that is happening. I'm making comments about my students, so I'm posting it privately. I'm hoping that that will make sense to you. Under the student journal, differentiation was one area. Under the student journal, the intention there is that it's primarily about building those anecdotal records. If I contextualise it for you, I never taught a class where 2 or 3 students didn't stand out for one reason or another, good, bad or indifferent. This isn't talking about checklists of whether they've met a particular content description. It's talking about when Amanda surprised me by collaborating really well with Danny. You having to keep anecdotal records like that normally are so cumbersome because you have to write so much about what was happening at the time. But in here, you can write it. Add their names. I'm hoping I've got a Danny here. I may not have. No, I don't, but we all know what I'm talking about. And if I post that, I will show you how those records are building progressively with a link back to the task that you were delivering at the time. So it means you don't have to write what they were doing, what the task was, just what their behaviour was. That's the student journal. And then feedback, that is to us. The head of the authorship at MAPPEN, which is Mark Ritterman, he is modifying tasks almost on a daily basis based on teacher feedback. If you give teacher feedback, you may well get an email asking for a little more clarification. It may be something as simple as a document has got a mistake in it, but if you don't give us the feedback, guys, we can't make the changes. It is a genuine, MAPPEN is a genuine collaboration between teachers and MAPPEN itself. So that's your place to start giving that feedback. Alrighty, I am not going to today go into the real detail of these, the comments, the differentiation, the student journal, because the best place for you to take the time when you are interested in that to work with those areas is in your portal. So I'm just going to close that task by clicking on the title. I'm going to go back into my portal and I'm going to go into students. For most of you, you will need to click on add students first and do that. But what you can see here is that progressively under Colin Carter, he's got 12 notes there. If I click on his name, oh, sorry, I'm in a different account. So I can't show you that right now, but you will get the picture. When you look at in anyone's name, you get all of their notes and all of the tasks that they have that those notes have been associated with. Where you get the real learning about that, click in your name, in your portal, and go to the training centre. If you want to get a really good insight into how to use the adding comments in notes or differentiating with MAPPEN, you click in there. This one here is a 3-minute video. I'll just play a tiny bit of it for you. You probably won't be able to hear the voice through this, but what that is going to do is take you step by step through where you go in the screens, why you would go there. There's a transcript of it underneath, and you can learn the detail of using each of these features through the MAPPEN Training Centre. Okay, back to all of our units again, and just a couple of really just practitioner things. I'm going to assume that you are teaching this unit in our community. And you don't want to, every time you log in, you don't want to have to go to the all units, find the unit that you're teaching, and then find where you are up to. It's a simple thing that we've built in, and it just makes your life easier, guys. And it gives the school a record of where everyone is at in the units in terms of their compliance requirements, etc. So if I have delivered this first task and I click the tick next to it, you can see that that has turned green. Let's assume I've finished the next one as well. That has turned green. The next time that I log into MAPPEN, I won't be taken back to the All Units page. The next time I log in, which I'm pretending to do by clicking on the icon, I'm taken straight to where I'm up to. That's what you want to be seeing. You just want to get to where you are up to. If I had completely finished all of that in the first week, I'll just click that one as well. What you would see when you logged in next time is that week 1 has collapsed and it's moved you straight into week 2. And going into there, you can see week 1 has collapsed because you've already done them. You don't have to look at those titles, and it's taken you straight to where you're up to at the moment. Okay. The only other couple of things is over here. I want you to go to your menu, which is the 3 white bars, and click in the scope and sequence. The scope and sequence, from a practitioner's point of view, is You know when you have to write home for your term newsletter a blurb about what is happening. Here's a couple of your hours of your life back, guys, because let's assume you are delivering places and spaces. Open that. There is a lovely one-page glossy that you can simply print or download and add to your term newsletter, and the parents in your class are going to be very impressed with what you're doing there. So that is the use of the scope and sequence. If we have any of you out there that are real curriculum buffs, and there are some of us around, and you want to get a sense of where everything is happening, if you click in your menu again and you go to the curriculum maps. Okay, I'm looking currently at the foundation one. I can choose to go to any of the other levels, clicking on them. And what this shows you then is for every learning area, this is almost your confidence booster. It shows you for every learning area where every single content description has been met. So when I come down here, I'm looking at the HAS. I'm in an Australian curriculum school at the moment, so that's why it's being referred to as this. You can see the Australian curriculum code. That would be NISA or Victoria, depending on where you are. And you can see there that that particular content description about posing questions about the past and present objects appears for years 1 and 2 in the community unit, the creativity unit, the identity unit, and the connections unit. If I want to see how that happens, I click on the word tasks, and that will take me to every task that in any way, shape or form addresses part or all of that content description. So that's there for you as another resource. Bottom right-hand corner is live chat. There is always, during Eastern Standard Time, between 8 and 5, Monday to Friday, you will always find somebody there, and often outside of that. But if you want help outside of that, you can still access that, and it sends a message through to us, and we will get back to you the next working day. So, my video is coming back on. Somewhere here it will show me how to stop sharing. There we go, at the top. I'm learning along with you. I'll pop my video back on. And I'm back, and I'm going to give you another few minutes now to come up with any questions that you can think of, and I'll leave it for 3 minutes, say, and if you can jot down any questions that you've got, that will be close to doing us for today's webinar. So I'm going to duck away for a couple of minutes, and I'll come back to you. Cheers. And I'm back with one uber important question. Thank you, Elise, because if it hadn't come up today, it's one that I had missed. You can't print MAPPEN tasks to give to a CRT or a relief teacher. There's a couple of reasons for that. The obvious one is the copyright. MAPPEN is unique in the world, and as soon as things can be downloaded, there's a much greater chance outside of our MAPPEN community that they can be accessed and pirated. So that is part of it. But the main reason that you can't print the MAPPEN tasks is because if you can, you often will, and the MAPPEN is then not accessed online. By accessing your units online, what you are getting is the benefits of collaboration with other teachers, both within your school and in the MAPPEN community. You're getting currency. Links break. That's just the lie. That's, you know, you buy a resource book and it has a link to a website in there, and the second time you use it, it's broken. MAPPEN updates all of its links all the time because teachers let us know they're broken. We find an alternative immediately. So you get currency. You get currency in curriculum ways. When curriculum changes occur, we make the updates, we make the modifications to the units so you don't have to worry about it. So accessing your units online is really important. What we recommend, you can actually access MAPPEN, well, sorry, there's two things. One, with relief teachers, you can choose to give them a login to get in to use and leave them the detail of the tasks that you want them to deliver, just the names. What we recommend in most schools get complimentary MAPPEN logins for their leadership team. And generally speaking, one of them they maintain as a relief teacher login. And so when you are away, all you need to leave for the relief teacher is the unit and the title of the tasks that you want delivered. The office can then log them into an iPad or whatever using their login details and just send them straight to the unit and they can get in. Schools that have been using MAPPEN for some time use this process quite seamlessly, and it's a lot easier. You don't have to print the resources for them, which you would have to do if you were printing out a task for them. You'd have to also get all of the resources ready, the websites, etc. So that's not going to change. You won't be able to print them. Some teachers have said, I like to be able to read, you know, what I'm doing at the same time, but I'm displaying a website or something on the interactive whiteboard. So how do I get around that if I can't print the task for myself? You can open MAPPEN on a smartphone, a tablet, on the phones particularly, really easily. And what it shows is the task method. What you're following on the screen. You can scroll down and get everything, but the first thing you see is the task method. So if you are having to display a website or something on the interactive whiteboard, then you can have the actual task method, your steps, I suppose, on your phone, and you can follow it quite easily there. It takes a tiny bit of getting used to, but we're all pretty used to our phones, and that tends to be a solution for it. Okay, I've got one more question there that says, not sure if you can answer this, but in the levels 5, 6 museums in motion, some of the printable resources now appear as a blank page. Love it. When something like that comes up, yes, there's a problem. We don't know what the problem is until we get to investigate it. As soon as anything like that happens, you jump onto live chat and one of our team will fix it for you because we have access to all of the original resources, obviously. So if there is a problem, we need to know. It might be the server that you use, the browser that you're using. There might be something gone wrong. We can talk you through it. So for that one, Museums in Motion, I will probably need you to jump onto live chat and give us a task title so that we can look at the resources there. And that's exactly what live chat is for, to solve problems like that as they arise. Hope that helped that one. Thanks, Vanessa, for that question. And there are no other questions, so I'm going to leave it there. At this stage, given the response to today's webinar, which has just been fantastic, it's clearly meeting a need. These will be regular, don't know what frequency at this stage, but for new users, I'll also be running some MAPPEN webinars for more experienced users to take things a little bit further. So thank you so much for your time today. I've really enjoyed doing it, and there will be a recording of this, so you'll be able to go back and have a look at any elements that you want. And in the meantime, you know where we are. Thanks for your time, guys, and we'll call it quits now. Take care. See you later.